Hello everybody, welcome back to the Dice Tower. My name's Chris Yi.
I'm Mike DiLisio.
Today we're taking a look at this miniaturized version of another game. This is called Cascadito.
Yes.
Ito, Mike, in Spanish means little that thing.
Crushing your skull in Spanish. Ito.
Ito, yeah. Burrito is a little...
Burro.
Yes.
It's a small donkey.
And a Cascadito, therefore, is a smaller version of Cascadero. It's actually thicker than the original.
It is. Surprisingly, it is.
Yeah. So this is from famed designer Reiner Knizia, same illustrator, Ian O'Toole, who I don't think has done a roll and write game before. To my knowledge.
That's an interesting point. I don't know if he has or not.
Yeah. So we're going to show you how this one plays, and then we'll give you our thoughts. We'll be right back. Here's the components for Cascadito. Each player would have their own sheet that they'll be writing on, and then there's a set of 6 dice. The game is a dice drafting game, wherein every turn you will roll the dice, and then players will, in clockwise order, draft 1 die and fill in a space corresponding to that color of die. There are 4 maps in the game of increasing difficulty that I'll explain a little bit later. And the first map, it says that all blank dice, are not part of the active dice pool, nor are the white-faced dice, which will be used in the later maps. So in this case, this is the dice pool. The first player would draft 1 of these dice and then cross off a space adjacent to a city or a town of that color. On this first one, they're not going to do anything. The next player would then draft a die, use it, and then if it's back to this player, they will draft a yellow die. They can now continue this group of X's that they have crossed off. And so here, because the group is at least 2 X's big, it is now connected to a yellow town, and therefore this player will move up on the yellow track. Moving up here, which they will collect bonuses along the way and score more points over the course of the game. Now that the next player has to draft dice and there are no dice left in the available pool, they will grab all the dice, re-roll them, and then continue from here. So this player will grab this one, and then I'll grab this one here. Now, an important thing to note is that if I grab this yellow die and filled in this space right here, I do not get to move up the yellow town track again because I already have a group. It's already connected to the group that was touched to that town. But let's say that I was able to come here off of the blue die first, and then come here in the second step here. This is a separate independent group that is now connected to a yellow town. Therefore, I would move up this town track again. These bonuses here allow you to move up on any other track. These ones here allow you to fill in any space. Now let's say that you don't want to fill in a space adjacent to an orange for whatever reason. You could come down here to the river track, filling in this space. Every other river track space that you fill in is going to allow you to fill in any space that you want on the board and then get those bonuses as well, including these cascading chains of benefits. There are points for going further down the river. There are points that you will earn for moving up the track. And at the start of the game, each player will designate one of the colored tracks to be their home track, which means that if they get to the top, they will earn 15 points rather than the 8 for being on the top step. There are also goals here that you are working towards. These ones are public, or all players can complete them. So the first person to connect a chain, a single group of 2 buildings or 2 towns connected would get this bonus and get to move up any step of their choice and take any benefits associated with it. And then these ones up top here are individual goals. The first person to accomplish this would check this box off, and they would get 5 points at the end of the game. All other players would have to fill in this lock to show that they can no longer do it. So the first person to reach this first fleur-de-lis on all 4 color tracks, or the first person to reach the top of at least 2 different tracks, connect different number of towns, so on and so forth. Now that's just map 1. So map 2 is going to introduce some different elements here. First, you'll see that there are these robbers or these skull symbols that you can cover up, which is its own track here, which has different unique goals that you can work towards. On this map, the white town dice are active because the map is bigger, and you can move up a new track, the white track, which has its own bonuses. In map 3, the 2 rivers, there are 2 rivers that come from the side and meet in the middle. You can build off of the river rather than the river being a separate track to the side. And then lastly, in map 4, there are trade goods here, which as you cover them up, you will collect these bonuses here. And there are also different color crown areas that if you cover those up, you will score this top objective here. And then you'll score different points. This one has a slightly different end condition when someone reaches the 4th step on all of these tracks. So all the maps just play a little bit differently. And that's just a quick look at Cascadito. All right, so component-wise, I guess starting off here, I think that this game looks very nice. It looks like the original. So if you like that art style,
Yeah.
I think it'll look nice to you. And it fits very well as a roll and write game where I don't think it's too busy looking.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's basically what you said. If you liked and we keep referring to this other game called Cascadero, which is a tile laying game, and this is an offshoot of that roll and write version of that game, so to speak. If you like the art in that, you'll like it in this. If you don't like it in that, you won't like it in this. But I think it looks sharp, and I think it's a well organized board, that you're going on. It makes sense, especially if you've played Cascadero. But even if you haven't, I don't think you're going to get tripped up over iconography or anything like that.
So the games are very comparable because you are trying to make connections and stuff. In both games, right? It's the second part of your group that is going to start scoring those town bonuses and moving up the tracks. And really, on a first blush, is just, in my opinion, worse Cascadero.
Right. And that brings up an interesting point. I was going to bring it up later, but I think this is a good segue into it, which is that if you've played Cascadero before you play this, just skip the first one. The first map. There's 4 maps in the game. You don't need to play the first map if you've played Cascadero because it's going to feel like a worse version of Cascadero. If you have not played Cascadero, you won't have that context, so it won't feel necessarily, you're not going to be comparing it to something you don't know. So play the first one just to get an idea of the idea of the mechanics, the idea of what a group is, how you are connecting and scoring and moving up tracks. But yeah, I would say that this will leave probably a negative first impression on you if you've played Cascadero and then you play the first map.
Because the 4 maps are quite different from each other in a significant way, which I appreciate.
Yes.
Because that first map, so I'll tell you the truth, actually. I played this one first, before playing Cascadero, the big board game. And it doesn't really matter. I played that first map, and I thought, this felt a little bit lacking of something, right? And I think that it is just another one of those Reiner Knizia games where, upon first blush, you look at it and say, got it.
Yeah.
Second one in a group scores, and then you just run up your track, because you have a color that's most important to you, so go up that one, connect things. But then, partway through the game, it started to kind of click that there's some little interesting bonuses that you're going for, more than just second in a group scores, third in a group scores, so on and so forth.
Yes.
Was that a similar experience you had?
It's a similar experience I had with Cascadero because I didn't come to this first. So I had the context of Cascadero going into this one. What I did find on playing this after playing Cascadero was how much I appreciated the connections. They do feel like connected games, right? They didn't just throw this artwork onto a game that has no connection at all to Cascadero. So I appreciated that. But what really made this product, I think, viable, because quite honestly, if this had come out with map 1 and that they released this as that, I would have been like, there's no reason to play this. There's no reason to have this. They shouldn't have made it. The maps, the differences in the maps are what make this a compelling standalone product. That really sets it apart, where it still keeps the framework of what you would experience if you played Cascadero, but put twists on it that are more. Those twists wouldn't make sense in the base game, but they make sense here.
I agree. They make sense as a roll and write game. And so it kind of plays to its form factor. It plays to its strengths well, which I appreciate that that's not something that they just kind of said. Because if it was just map 1, then this would have felt like that stereotypical, here's a Kickstarter game, plus the little free game you get with it.
Yeah.
Map 1 is that free game that you get that you
It's a tutorial is really what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other 3 maps are the maps that I'm going to come back to because I find them genuinely interesting.
I do too.
Trying to collect all the skulls. That's just one little extra thing in there But then they also change, the objectives and the shared ones that you can have, but also the ones that you have to race for before the other players at the table.
Right.
And then map 3 introduces these rivers, makes the river a part of the game, and then map 4 being the most different.
The trade goods type of things where you're trying to mark off the two. I have a clear favorite in maps.
Okay, I'd like to hear yours, then I'll share mine.
Let's just... Okay, are we ready?
We're ready.
1, 2...
Oh, if there's one finger, this is bad.
1... Oh, that's a good point. Use the other finger if it is. It won't be map 1, folks. All right, 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, map 3 is by far my favorite.
Yeah.
Because what the river does is just very compelling, and the fact the way that you can build off of things that you're doing, that to me is the best single map in this box.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest with you, I'm also kind of excited about if this does relatively well, they could so easily add new maps to this. You know what I mean? So yeah. They other than map 1, which is just a tutorial, they are all good in their own right. I would happily play map 2, 3, or 4 anytime.
And I would just teach this game starting at map 2.
I would too.
And here's the things, I don't feel like I'm being robbed of content. Where like, there's 4 maps, one I don't really want to play with. No, I feel more like, hey, there's 3 really good maps that are distinct from each other.
Right. And
I could start by teaching map 2. And I'm good. I don't have to deal with that tutorial map.
Right. And if you're playing it for the first time, I don't think it's a bad idea. Because additionally to what we've been saying, it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
The game is pretty quick. So you can play through that first one as a tutorial. Just know that the experience gets much richer than that. There's more to it than you'll see in that first map. And speaking of that gameplay, what do you think about the dice system, which is really... another way that sets it apart from Cascadero.
So I played this solo the first several times I played it. I really enjoyed the little solo system.
Yeah.
Except for the fact, and the biggest ding I think I have on the game is that it is a just play for a high score.
Yes.
And there's not even, and I'm jumping the gun a little bit here. Well, let's come back to that, right? Because we're both pretty, solo gamers, I guess, right? We're both pretty solo gamers. That's not the sentence I meant to say. I thought the dice system would then bother me when I went to a multiplayer game.
Right.
Because I've played games where you draft dice and whoever's last in kind of the sequence just gets whatever crummy dice left over, right?
Yeah.
There's almost always something interesting to do, even when you are stuck with a die that you didn't quite want.
Right.
And so I thought that worked in this roll and write format, as opposed to the board game Cascadero, where you always just can choose any space.
Right, and you're not going to always be left with the crummy dice, right, because of the way it replenishes and all those kinds of things. So yeah, I do think that they did a good job with that action system, which, in the board game is laying tiles. Here you're drafting dice to essentially lay tiles.
Right.
Right. So yeah, I agree. I also thought that was good. I've also played it multiplayer and solo, and solo rules as written, I think, are lacking.
I agree.
Yeah,
it's fine. Hey,
it's okay.
Try and get a good score, and the scores aren't even comparable map to map.
No,
because you can get far more points in map 4 if you play it. You know what I mean? So it's. I do wish that there was even something as simple as. Here's a target score.
Score matrix, yeah.
Right, score matrix, or even just, if you get 170 points on the 4th map, that's a win.
Right, you can do, even achievements, like there are achievements on there already, but to be successful in this map, you need to score this much and get, all of your personal and 2 of the public, something like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because I was hoping for something exactly like that.
Right, because otherwise you're really just trying to do as well as you can. And I think anymore, that used to be enough in solo games, although I complained about it, 7 years ago. But that used to be enough, and I don't think it's enough anymore. I think you need to have, if not an automated opponent, then you need to have at least missions, achievements, the very least score matrices.
Yeah, I agree. So I think that's my biggest complaint is because this is a very soloable game.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Very relaxing. You kind of just play, oh darn, I rolled that. Okay, well, let's do this. And then roll it again and just keep going through the rounds. Any other thoughts before we kind of get to closing ratings and final thoughts?
Yeah, I'll mention, this may be a little bit out of, I don't know. I don't even know how to put this, but...
It's uncouth.
It's going to be uncouth. Well, I did, because I was unsatisfied with the solo mode as written, I came up with my own kind of an idea on how you can play against an automated opponent that is very easy to administer. And so I ran it past the publisher, and they said, sure, go ahead and put it up as an unofficial variant. So there is an unofficial variant that I put up on Board Game Geek. If you are a solo player and you're not satisfied, you can try it. You know, maybe with a little bit of group play testing, we can make any kind of adjustments or tweaks we need. But I've been enjoying playing that. But I'm going to be reviewing it as, you know...
Out of the box.
Out of the box, yeah.
With the rules as is.
Right.
Score-wise, for me, this one I'm coming in at a 7.5 because I like it. I would recommend it. I would prefer to play the board game, Cascadero.
Of course.
Because I prefer the choices and everything, and the fact that that game does also have a two-sided map.
Right.
Creates some nice variety. I like that there is, like I said earlier, that this plays to the strengths of a roll-and-write game, and so the different maps are more flexible because they don't have to manufacture more stuff. It's pads of paper. And so I think that they do a good job with that. It reminds me of playing through Knizia's legacy games like My City or My Island, where there's changes. But the changes are far less incremental and minor. My City roll and build.
Yeah.
I did not have any fun with it.
I didn't really enjoy that, no.
This one is kind of what that one should have done, I thought.
agree.
And just give you several maps to play on, some nice little twists and some variations. I'll probably keep coming back to the river map the most.
Yes.
But map 4 and 2, I still really enjoy playing those.
Those bandits are good, yeah.
Yeah,
so I agree with you.
7.5 from me.
Yeah, we're in a very similar spot, and I struggle a little bit between, because I'm kind of coming between a 7.5 and an 8, which, you know, I granted, the difference is not a whole lot. I do wish that a more realized solo variant was in the box because roll and writes are really kind of a bread and butter choice for solo gamers. You know, most roll and writes are, you know, soloable. They're the norm, not the exception. And so I do wish that they had kind of addressed that because that's going to be a big, you know, potential market for any roll and write game. So that does knock it down a little bit for me. So I am going to come at a 7.5. I still, you know, obviously we both recommend it. I still, like you, prefer Cascadero, and I would choose that over this, but that doesn't mean that I will not be playing this. I'm sure I've played this more than Cascadero because it's so fast. Yes. And also I played a ton of games while I was trying to do the solo thing I was messing with. But, yeah, if you have Cascadero, I think this is a nice companion piece to kind of just get that feel in a quarter of the time, although Cascadero is not a long game either. Right. If you don't have it and you're intrigued by the idea but you don't want to invest in the whole kind of Big Daddy, this is a nice option for you as well.
Little Daddy.
Little Daddy.
Little Daddy Dito. So there you go, a high score of a 7.5, giving Cascadito a seal of approval from us here at the Dice Tower. Thanks for coming out to this review. Until next time, my name is Chris Yi.
And I'm Mike DiLisio.
Have fun chasing your, what is this guy called? The Herald, right?
He's the Herald. Heraldito.
Heraldito.
He's a little herald.